The morning of February 13th, 2017 was like any other day at Malaysia's hectic Kuala Lumpur International Airport. So it would have been easy to miss Mr. Kim, a lonely North Korean man clad in a blue polo shirt and jeans. Mr. Kim, age 45, was on his way to airport security to check into his flight to Macau. Mr. Kim was used to traveling, so this whole thing for him was routine. As he ambled past the column with a backpack slung over his shoulders, a woman and an amateur prankster would come up behind him and cover his eyes. Then she immediately ran away. Almost like a weird game of peekaboo, Mr. Kim didn't know what to think of it. And just moments later, another woman would sneak up behind him and put her hands over his face as well. This time the lady didn't put her hands over his eyes. In kind of her haste, she was kind of shorter stature, she actually managed to get her hands around his mouth. And then she immediately apologized, and then she would take off running. Again, Mr. Kim was confused. He did not know what to think of this game of peekaboo, weird prank, were they flirting with him? He had no clue. Moments later, Mr. Kim would fall ill and he'd be rushed to the hospital. And on his way to the hospital, he would unfortunately pass away. How could this be? Like, what the hell happened? The answer to that is a strange one indeed. We'll answer that question. I'm also going to show some surveillance footage of this incident at the airport, so you'll definitely want to stick around until the end. But first things first, if you enjoy strange true crime stories, then this is the place to be. Here with me, JP, so kick back, grab a drink and some snacks, and make sure to tip that like button, join that SBG family by subscribing and hitting that notification button. All right, let's go. Doan Huong from Vietnam and Siti Aiysah from Indonesia were complete strangers, but would soon meet each other to star as contestants on a new video prank show. Siti would meet a man by the name of James, I believe in January. James and Siti went to malls, hotels, and airports where they would perform these pranks on total strangers. James would give her oils and pepper sauces that she would rub on her hands, and then she'd run up to strangers and kind of smear it on their face and take off running, and they'd film the whole thing for laughs. James would record these encounters on his cell phone, and then he would pay CT between $100 to $200. James would later introduce CT to a man by the name of Chang. Chang introduced himself as a producer of a Chinese video prank show. He mentioned he was looking for some new talent, some new pranks, and he liked what James and CT were doing. So he offered them a deal to create more footage for this prank show, and he would pay them. And of course, CT was excited. She was about to be a part of this super cool new video prank show. They had talks of putting it on YouTube, so she was just geeked up. She was happy. She was like, boom, got a dream job. I just kind of play pranks on people, these harmless pranks, and I get paid just to have fun. So she thought. Doan would also meet James at a different time from CT. James would introduce her to a man by the name of Mr. Y, and the three of them would record similar pranks as well for a future YouTube video prank show. And she would also receive about $100 to $200 per prank. Again, Doan thought this was a dream job. She gets to play pranks on people and she gets paid like $200 per prank, like easy money. And again, at this time, just want to stress that CT and Doan have not met at this point in time. So the morning of February 13th, CT, Doan, James, Mr. Chang, and Mr. Y met at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, eager to film some of that prank footage and get their YouTube channel, this YouTube video prank show going. Now, it was during this time that the four all officially met. So CT met Doan, Mr. Chang, Mr. Y, James. They all got together to discuss their plan. And it was also at this time where Mr. Kim was chosen as their next target for this prank show. He looked like just some lonely guy kind of walking through the airport. So he figured, you know what? It'd be funny, let's get this guy. So Mr. Chang asked the girls to hold out their hands. He proceeded to rub some oil into their hands, getting them ready. Same type of pranks they've been doing. We're just gonna get this new guy. So it was go time. Everyone took their positions. And it was at this time Mr. Kim was making his way through airport security, and the women sprung into action. First, Siti ran up behind Mr. Kim, and she smeared that oil into his face, and then she immediately took off running. It was Doan's turn next. She ran up behind Mr. Kim. She couldn't quite reach his eyes, so she kind of got his mouth and smeared it on his face there. She apologized to him and immediately took off running. She knew that pepper oil was gonna be spicy. But within seconds of the girls pulling this prank on him, Mr. Kim fell ill. He didn't feel too good. He started kind of walking with the limp to airport security. After speaking with airport security, he would be sent to the airport infirmary, and from there, he would be transported to the hospital. But unfortunately, he would die before he actually made it to the hospital. It took just 30 minutes from when the girls played the prank on him until he was pronounced dead. And again, I have some surveillance footage of this incident at the airport, so I will be showing it at the end. So what happened here? To answer that, we have to know who Mr. Kim is. And who was Mr. Kim? Well, he was Kim Jong Nam, the half-brother to Kim Jong Un. And the two girls who had never met prior to this situation, they had just executed a near-perfect assassination. The oil that they were given was not pepper oil. It was something much more sinister. As it turns out, they had a deadly chemical agent VX on their hands, one of the most toxic man-made nerve agents to exist. VX agent contains a VX molecule that interferes with the way the glands and the muscles in the human body work. It blocks an enzyme that allows your muscles to relax. So when you flex your muscle, contract them, right, there's an enzyme that's released to let it relax and kind of go back to its normal state. This enzyme blocks that. This causes the muscles to clench and tighten up uncontrollably, and it eventually prevents the victim to be able to breathe. And of course, this causes you to suffocate. The lethal dose of VX ranges from about 10 milligrams via skin contact to 25 to 30 milligrams if it's inhaled. This stuff is so bad that a ship was deliberately sunk off the coast of Florida to dispose of just one single container of VX nerve agent. But after searching Kim Jong Nam's belongings, it was discovered that he had been carrying the antidote to this VX agent all along. The same VX agent that killed him. Why was he carrying the antidote? Was he tipped off? Did he know they were coming for him? Did the girls know he was Kim Jong Un's brother? Were the girls working with North Korea? Or were they really just trying to film a YouTube prank show? Another bizarre detail of this case is Mr. Kim would normally travel with bodyguards, but this time around he didn't. Where were his bodyguards this time? Did they get the slip? How did he decide to travel without these bodyguards? But back to the most obvious, important question. Who are these two women? And who is James, Mr. Y, and Chang? Were these two women groomed into pulling off one of the most crazy, bizarre James Bond assassinations? Minutes after this incident, the two women were taken into custody by Malaysian authorities. They ultimately pleaded not guilty to this crime. They said, we had no idea this was a chemical agent that would fatally injure somebody. We thought it was pepper oil for this prank show that we were hired to do. James, Mr. Y, and Chang were nowhere to be seen after this incident. They managed to successfully evade police and flee from the airport after seeing that this attack was completed successfully. After police reviewed the surveillance footage, they found that there's possibly 4 North Korean men involved in this assassination. A police investigation showed that a North Korean man by the name of Hanamori played the role of the mastermind of this incident. Hanamori was also known as grandpa or uncle. It is said that Hanamori arrived to the airport in the same vehicle as Chang and Mr. Y. They arrived about 90 minutes before the attack was executed. Security videos then showed Hanamori meeting with each of the men separately, as well as a third man that went by the name James at an airport cafe before the attack on Kim. Chang, James, and Mr. Y all would later meet up with Siti and Doan at the same cafe. At this point, Hanamori was out of the picture. Chang and Mr. Y all wore backpacks and wore baseball caps. They didn't wear Martin caps, of course. That's a joke. Mr. Y was seen holding a water bottle, possibly containing that oil. while Mr. Chang was carrying a plastic bag. After the two women rubbed Kim's face with what they now know as VX agent, the VX nerve agent, video footage shows that Chang and Mr. Y actually changed their shirts, ditched their caps, removed their backpacks. Hanamori, he also changed his shirt, and Chang shaved off his goatee. Chang and Mr. Y left the budget terminal in the same vehicle that Hanamori was in and headed to the main airport terminal. Meanwhile, James was seen heading to the Sama Sama Airport Hotel after the attack. Security videos showed James entering his hotel before checking out of the hotel. He was then later seen at the departure hall of the main airport terminal with the other three men, and that's Chang, Mr. Y, and Hanamori. And just hours after the attack, those four men passed through immigration checkpoints and boarded flights out of the country. And they were accompanied by a North Korean diplomat, from my understanding. And their flight routes back to Pyongyang were carefully calculated to avoid countries that may ground them and attempt to arrest them. Back to the two girls here. They stated that they had no clue that they were being kind of patsies involved in this crime, and that it was an accident. They thought they were doing a YouTube prank show, and these men came and approached them, and they were getting paid to do these pranks, and they thought it was legit. They had no clue that they were being pulled into this assassination on Mr. Kim. So just an update on Siti and Doan. All charges were actually dropped against Siti, and then Doan kind of found herself the sole person accused of murder in this situation. She was offered a deal. They wanted her to accept a lower charge of causing hurt with a deadly weapon, and she would face 10 years in prison instead of the mandatory sentence, which would be death by hanging if she was found guilty of murder. That's a no-brainer. Go with the lesser sentence. You do not want to risk getting hung to death. And of course, she agreed, and the only thing she said in court the whole time was, "I'm happy." Doan was ultimately sentenced to 3 years and 4 months in prison, but was ultimately released early on May 2nd, 2019. So she only did a little over 2 years total. Do these girls actually know more than they claimed? Were they groomed to accidentally kill Mr. Kim? Or were they a part of this plan from the beginning? Now, do you believe the North Korean government used these women as pawns for this assassination? I'm very interested to hear your guys' thoughts. You guys always have some good insight for me. But I mean, I don't put it past the Korean government to orchestrate something like this. It just seems so crazy. It seems like something out of a James Bond movie or some thriller. It's kind of a wild story. It seems like a roundabout way to get an assassination attempt on a target, to go out, find these two women and groom them for a month, pay them to do these pranks, and then actually have them executed. And the fact that they did it without any issues, and the girls somehow didn't manage to kill themselves with the nerve agent, it's a bizarre story. I don't know if there's a cover up here, if the Malaysian government just wanted to cover it up and just be done with it and get it out of the news, or what. It just seems like a wild, crazy story. I don't know. To me, it kind of sounds like they were being played from the beginning. Clearly, these four men used them to commit this crime and set them up so that they would take the fall. But again, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. So here is the surveillance footage that I want you guys to see here. Alright guys, that's gonna be it for today. If you guys like what you're seeing, make sure to subscribe, join that SBG family, hit that notification button. This way you're notified anytime I release new videos and new stories. Alright guys, be good, be safe.